Okay, everybody. This is Tony Gilchrist again at the National Resource Center, and we're still going to have a few folks getting on, I think, in the next few minutes. But I think I'd like to go ahead and get started so we can keep folks on time on this Friday afternoon. So first off, welcome to the EMSC fan learning session for April 2016. And so howdy everyone. So in the next few minutes we'll look at a number of things. We'll get a quick update from Jocelyn for the EMSC program. And I wanted to look at the EMSC Day activities and some of the things we've talked about in the past, and just make sure folks on the call are aware of resources that are out there, and then kind of like to get an idea from some of you about what you're doing for EMSC Day. Then I wanted to do a quick follow-up on the webinar that we did in February. It was called Keeping Our Children Safe in a Changing World. I'm sure several of you were on that call, but we'll talk just briefly about what that was about for the benefit of those that weren't on there, and then wanted to kind of take a walk through some of the resources that we found since that call, and kind of get some discussion and some input, and hopefully some of these resources some of you have seen and might have some insight for the rest of us. And then we'd like to hear from you guys about what's going on just in general with your with your EMSC program and or projects that you're working on, things like that. And then we'll wrap it up. And I don't know if we'll take a whole hour, but I promise you we'll get out of here on time. So with that, yeah, let me see how many folks do we have on the call here. We don't have that many folks on the call. Josh, do you want to go around real quick and just, because there may be some new folks that are calling in, and just let everybody say who you are and where you're from. Billy, you're
sure.
First on our. Well, Jocelyn, you go first, and then
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Jocelyn at HRSA, and welcome to our call today. I'm the first one to introduce myself. I think most of you know who I am, so I'll move on and let the next person introduce themselves. Angela, maybe you can go.
Hi there, I'm Angela Nicolai with the EMS for Children National Resource Center, and I have the pleasure of working with Tony Gilchrist and with Joss on a daily basis.
All right, Billy? And if you're muted, you may have to hit, is it *6 or #6? It's one of those two.
I don't know. It's something #6.
#6.
#6. Okay, let's start at the other end. Tamara, are you on the line? Tamara?
Yeah, this is Tamara Bakewell, the fan rep from Oregon.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and who do we have? It's Wilson.
I'm Sally Wilson. I am the Education, Prevention, and Outreach Coordinator for the Trauma Burn Service at Children's National in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I didn't think I recognized the initials. Wonderful. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. Megan?
Hi, everyone. Megan Lancaster. I am also with the EMS for Children National Resource Center.
All right. And Dolores?
I am the new EMSC I'm the new EMSC project manager in Oklahoma. I replaced Blair Apple very recently, so I'm still learning the ropes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Glad to have you. Dave?
Hi, Dave Edwards, Virginia EMSC manager. Can you hear me?
You bet.
Okay, my attention is divided, but I am here and listening.
Oh, wonderful. And Craig?
Hey, this is Craig from the National EMS for Children Data Analysis Resource Center, otherwise known as NEDARC, and I hope you all heard that.
Yes, yes, I'm glad to have you.
Great.
All right, now I've got a whole list of call-in users, number 1 through 10, and so if you haven't spoke up yet, please let us know who you are.
This is Sherry Santa from Texas Parent.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, this is Sherry Santa. Hi, sorry, I couldn't tell if I was unmuted or not. Anyway, Sherry Santa, Medical Education Program Coordinator with Texas Parent and the Texas Fan Rep.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
Glad to have you aboard.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
I'm Norma Campbell from Georgia EMSC. I'm actually a chair of Region 3 and have 3 fans in my region who could not attend, so I'm going to try to pass on some things to them for particularly Debbie Taylor, who's also representing our state.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Okay. Anybody else? All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. But you know, at any time during this, you know, this is not so formal that we can't speak up. So, you know, at any time during this presentation, if you have a question or a comment, please, you know, chime in and let us know what's on your mind. Okay, so Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, and while I'm talking, Tony, can you email Sandy the call-in and sign them to the call? She's trying to get on, and she doesn't have the information with her. She just emailed me.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope everybody's having a good Friday and so far a good 2016. As you all know, we're located here right outside Washington, D.C., and it feels more like an early March day here. It's rainy. My birds are chirping, but that's about as close as we're getting to feeling anything like spring here. I just wanted to give you all, you know, a few updates from the HRSA side of things. 2016 so far has been kind of a I'd say quiet in a sense year because we're doing a lot of prep work to get ready for things that are going to be rolling out in 2017, not the least of which I'm sure most of you have heard. And those of you that are newer, some of this information may not be real familiar, but hello? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I keep hearing something breaking in, so I apologize. I just thought somebody else was trying to speak. So I will, we will, you know, I would encourage you to ask questions, or if you prefer, we can, you know, certainly go into more depth about the things I'm mentioning, you know, on a one-to-one call. That's absolutely fine. Well, I think one of the most exciting things that is going on right now is that we are getting ready to roll out our new EMS performance measures. As most of you who have been with the program for a while know, this has been a real process over the last couple of years, actually, a very lengthy process, including many, many people in order to try to get this right. What we're doing is retiring some of our original performance measures, and those are being retired not because they are considered any less important than they ever were to an EMS system, but because most, we're glad to say most states and territories have managed to meet these measures, if not 100%, they're very close. So the measures that we are retiring, for those of you who may not know, are Performance Measure 71 and 72, which have to do with online and offline medical direction for an ambulance. Performance Measure 73, which is has to do with specific pediatric equipment that is carried on an ambulance. And then Performance Measure 78, which is how many hours of training paramedics and EMTs get in each state when they recertify. So those have really, most states have done an amazing job of incorporating all of those facets. So what we'll be working toward, and you'll be hearing more about on town hall calls and also on future DAN calls, is sort of the content of the new performance measures. And they're not so different. What they really are is what we're doing this time is, rather than asking state EMS systems if they have something, we're actually asking them to kind of quantify the quality of something they have. I'll give you a good example. Performance Measure 78, which is, it used to, 73 used to be about, okay, do you have what we consider to be all of the recommended, national recommended pediatric equipment on your ambulance? And in order to know that, you would have to go out and count and see, and what sizes do you have and that kind of thing. We know now that most BLS and ALS services around the country have the majority of this recommended list of pediatric equipment. So the next generation of performance measures is going to approach equipment. It's still involved, we're still involved in that. But we're going to look at it from a quality standpoint, and the way that we're going to do that is to see if people know, if practitioners really know how to use all of the pediatric equipment properly. And basically what we're saying to EMS agencies is, do you have a way of checking to make sure that your folks know how to use all of these things? And the reason, it may seem like, gee, doesn't everybody know how to use everything? But the truth be told, with pediatrics, the answer is sometimes no, in the sense that a lot of times EMTs and paramedics, as we all know, don't see children on a regular basis, and therefore don't use pediatric and pediatric-sized equipment as nearly as often as they would on a on a daily basis with the adult population. So they can forget or become less familiar, or perhaps they've never been taught how to use certain pieces of equipment. We think that having the equipment is important. The whole nation has worked hard. Everybody's showing through the performance measure data that they are carrying the majority of the equipment. So now we think this is going to be a quality measure to make sure that the equipment won't do anybody any good if they don't know how to use it properly. So we're moving to that level with a lot of these newer next generation performance measures. I'm not really going to get into all of what those new performance measures are, but really wanted you all to understand the tenor sort of why we're making some changes. It's it actually is a good thing and a measure of success. We see that EMS systems really have worked very hard. Our EMS managers have worked EMSC managers have worked very hard to make sure that these things are in place, and we really are seeing a difference in the data than what we saw when we began the performance measure process back in 2006 and 2007. So it's good news, and it's for a good reason, and it's evidence of progress and that we're making progress. So during this year, this calendar year, those new performance measures, or what we affectionately refer to as the next generation of performance measures, will be rolled out to the EMSC managers. All of them know, most of them know. Some of you who may be new may not know as much about the process, but most folks have heard that they're coming and have been involved in their development, and we've had 2 public comment sessions. The second one, I think, just closed. So we're incorporating the suggestions, recommendations that we received from those, and we are getting closer and closer to what will be the final version of our performance measures. And we're excited. It's been a very lengthy process. But it's been lengthy because I think it's been so thorough. We've had a lot of subject matter experts in, pediatric emergency medicine from all over the country who've been involved, as well as a number of our own EMSC family and managers. A lot of good input into this process, which is not ever simple, but is definitely worthwhile in the end. We think that we are, going to be capturing with these performance measures what really needs to be captured at this juncture. So be watching for those. And as I said, we will be retiring 71, 2, and 3, and 78, and they will be replaced with the new measures. So far, this does not affect the hospital measures that we have in place, those that are more hospital-based, like, transfer guidelines, hospital designation, things like that. Those remain and are, predominantly focused, or should I say, accounted for within our Peace Ready efforts, which are more hospital ED-based. So those remain for now unchanged. At some point in the future years, they will be the next thing that we begin to look at. The next bit of news that I have for you all is that at HRSA, we have a new EMSC branch chief. Most of you know her. Many of you know her well. Teresa Kanata is our new branch chief, and she affectionately goes by T. She's been with EMSC forever and ever. She actually was an EMSC grantee, started her career with EMSC on Guam, where she is originally from, and was the grantee, and eventually made her way over stateside and worked in the EMSC National Resource Center for a very long time. And I also came from the National Resource Center. We worked together there, and then we both went over to HRSA about 6 years ago. T has become the director of EMSC, and she has now moved up to be the branch chief, which is a really exciting move for her and for all of us. It's really just been made official, and actually she has been pretty much operating in that capacity for a long, long time. So it's a long time coming, and we're thrilled that this has worked out. We also have just announced a new deputy director. The deputy director of the EMSC and Injury Prevention Branch is really the right-hand person to our Dr. Beth Edgerton, who is, as you all know, the director of the entire division for affectionately known as DCAS, the Division of Child Health and Adolescent Medicine. So Erin Rainey has taken the position of Deputy Director, and some of you may be familiar with Erin, as she has been in the injury prevention side of things for most of her career, and has been at HRSA for also, I think, 5 years now. And she is moving from the focus of injury prevention and will now be the deputy director over the whole division. So we're thrilled, again, that she had this career opportunity, and she's replacing Pete, who is retiring after many, many years at the Maternal and Child Health Bureau. So we welcome her and wanted everybody to be aware of that. Let's see, as far as grant information, I just sent out a notification to all the EMSC program managers, the grant managers, that they will not have to recompete for their grant late in the year of 2016 as we originally thought that they would. This would have ordinarily been a competitive year, where they actually have to write the long grant application, and it goes through, you know, the process before they receive a notification that they will be given funding again. We were able to, for a number of reasons, obtain one more year of non-competing funding. So this year will be like any other year. Grant managers will have to turn in a progress report, also known as a non-competing continuation. It's a short report that just basically shares with HRSA the progress that the grant has made and what they've been working on specifically throughout the year. So in 2017, they will recompete for a new grant, a new cycle of EMSC money. But it's nice because it gives everybody a little bit of a breather, and they won't have to be doing this over the fall and during the holidays. So we were glad to do that. The reason that was done was to try to align a number of different things, not the least of which was the fact that the new performance measures, once they're rolled out in 2016, the EMSC grantees will be surveying on the new performance measures for the first time in 2017. They will be collecting, what we generally refer to as baseline data from their EMS agencies in every state and territory. And that will be somewhat of a large undertaking, so we're trying to help folks prepare for that. So that was one of many reasons. Next year will also be a year for an all-grantee meeting where all of the grantees from state partnership, targeted issues, and PCARN all gather here somewhere in the Washington area for our annual meeting. And that takes a lot of planning as well, and we're looking forward to a really good meeting. So it will have been a few years since we were all together, so there'll be lots of new stuff to talk about. And coming down the road in the very near future, we will be announcing that there will be 5 new targeted issues grants. The competition just closed about a month ago, and I think the review was completed a week or so ago, so we're expecting to be announcing who the recipients will be for those 5 new targeted issues grants. Other than that, that's about the top news from HRSA. I am happy to answer any questions. If anybody has any, please unmute and feel free to actually ask, or you can type things into the chat box if you would prefer. But for now, that's all I have.
Okay, any questions? If you think of one in the next few minutes, like was mentioned, you can put it in the chat box. If you don't see the chat box, there's a icon up somewhere on the top of your screen that says chat. You can press on that and it'll open up your chat box so you can see it. Okay. So next I wanted to real quickly just talk about what's going on for EMSC Day, which is May 18th. Now, as most of you are aware, EMSC Day is the Wednesday in the middle of EMS Week. And of course, as you know, EMS Week is really all about honoring and recognizing the EMS providers for the work that they do. So, and I apologize for the ringing. I didn't realize my little phone was on. So just want to kind of cover a little bit about what we talked about the last time and see if there's anybody on the phone that, have, started any projects or are working on any projects, and what those might be, and then we'll give you some resources here. But this was an idea, and it was kind of late in coming, but the Me and Thanks campaign really is just an idea to recognize EMS providers by encouraging children and families in your community to say thanks to your local providers. And not only as a way to recognize them and to honor them, but also as a way to make those connections between your families and your, the EMS providers in your community. And the mission is to send, some kind of a personalized thank you card or letter, or, even social media messages, just whatever. And, as you can see in the pictures here, those, homemade cards and letters and posters and pictures and, whatnot are just really meaningful to those EMS providers that are out there doing the work that they do, and sometimes very difficult work that they do to take care of your children. And so that's what it's all about. And so this is just one of the ideas, and I had sent a request out to family representatives. I got a couple of messages back from folks. And this is one of the ideas that came back about having a Meet the Paramedic event at the state's Autism Walk, and maybe setting up a craft table where kids can make cards, and they can put those cards in a box, and then for EMSC Day, then those cards would be delivered to the agency that provided the ambulance services. So, it's just, and I thought, what a fantastic idea. You're really taking opportunities that are out there and not only, engaging your EMS providers in an important event, but also an opportunity to, again, to bring folks together. So, there are, lots of other ideas that are out there, but, this was one that came back, and I thought, it would be a good starter to talk about kind of what's going on. So any of you on the phone that are doing some kind of a project or a program for EMSC Day, we'd really like to hear from you. Whether it's a kind of already in motion and things are happening now, or if it's perhaps just an idea at this stage. But we'd really like to hear from you. So feel free to unmute and let us know what's going on.
Anthony, this is Tammy Bakewell out in Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and that activity was going to be ours, but I have to sadly report that we could not get a paramedic agency to do it. And I had gotten the lead from Phil Engel out here in Oregon of who we should be working with, and we just could not complete the circle, could not get a commitment back. But that said, I learned later that there may have been some other companies we could have been contacting at the same time. So we've got all of the handouts, or all of the coloring sheets. You were able to supply that. The folks at the Autism Walk were really excited about it. Unfortunately, the Autism Walk is over now, so I can't do it for this year. But yeah, I have to say I was a little disappointed because I had explained that we would be, they get some cute artwork from it, and we agreed that it was important that if they came, that they would need to come early, because we didn't want to frighten the children and the parents by having the ambulance show up at, in the middle of the walk. We wanted to have it there ahead of time, and so we had put a lot of thought into it, and I was really excited about it. But unfortunately, I was not able to connect with the team that I had been recommended to. So, but we'll do it next year for sure.
Right. And as I say, we kind of, this is kind of a late blooming idea that came out, and so I certainly applaud the effort and understand that we've got a whole year that we can plan in the future. In the meantime, there's certainly still opportunities. Anybody have any ideas for for others on the phone about how if if you kind of run into this where you're having a hard time getting connected with folks in your community, any ideas on how you might make those kind of connections happen? Dave, you got any advice? I know you do a lot with EMS folks.
Hi, this is Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Hi. We connect quite well with we have partnerships with schools and daycare agencies, and they are very willing to participate, and we have partnered with one of them and EMSC DC to provide a day on EMSC Day, and I think adding a table for the children to write thank yous for the providers would be a wonderful idea, and we can easily incorporate that into our day. And I can reach out to our partners. We also partner heavily with the YMCA, and they are also very willing to help and support any injury prevention activities, but I think giving back is a wonderful idea. So I'll reach out to them as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Any other ideas? So just, for everyone's benefit, one of the things that, when you're working with local folks, sometimes it is hard to make those connections because of a number of things. Either they've got, a lot of other things going on. They're being pulled in too many directions. They don't have funding to do things. Who knows? But sometimes it is hard to make those connections. But understand at the at HRSA and at the National Resource Center and at NEDARC, there's folks that work a lot on the national level with some of the professional organizations, including like the National Association of EMTs and the professional organizations for physicians and nurses and any number of things, and they very often have people in or around your community that would be more than willing to help you make those connections. And so don't hesitate to pick up the phone, give one of us a call, and say, hey, can you maybe, there's no guarantees, but can you help us out in maybe getting some of this stuff done? Making those connections. So do we have any, and just so you know, somebody's got a camera on, and I don't know if you want but are there any other thoughts or ideas other than even different than this idea of making cards, or anything that you've got going on specifically for EMSC Day that you'd like to share? Okay. Quite, I think we will move on. I did want to get this screen to move. I did want to make sure that everybody was aware of the resources, and Tamara mentioned these some of the things a while ago. We've got some templates that you can open up and look at and see if they fit your needs, or at least get some ideas. We've got celebration ideas and activity sheets and fact sheets and flyers and artwork and some, all kinds of things that you can put on your website or on social media and things like that. So just to give you a quick glance at some of that, these are some of the templates that you could take for, like elementary kids. Can everybody, if you're not speaking, mute your phone? We've got a lot of noise in the background. Okay, thank you. So this is just a couple of the templates that we have. Here's some maybe for some older kids. These are bifold cards and with words already printed on them, but certainly room to personalize. And then this is just a simple certificate of appreciation that you could make and give out to your EMS providers in your community. So that's just a few of the template ideas that we have, and then the Facebook page post ad and website banners, things like that. Suzanne Selman here at the NRC just does a fantastic job of putting these things together and making them easy to download and easy to use. So there are those things that you can use to put on websites and whatnot. And there's email badges and printable postcards and just all kinds of fun things in there that you can check out. So I just wanted you to know what was in there, and we've already kind of asked what folks are doing. So if there are no other questions or comments, we'll move forward. Like I said.
Hey, Tony?
Yes.
I had an additional idea. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted with some other stuff here.
Okay.
I know a lot of programs have been purchasing items for volunteer providers as they're able to, and throughout the year. I know some programs have purchased restraint devices on a limited basis and also immobilizers. And with the limited amount of time left, it might be a good idea if you just take one of those devices, and it could be a good photo op time for a press release or something, just to show an example of the kind of thing that's being done for children. It's a good press release for an EMSC Day, a photo with any agency that may have gotten one, to show the kinds of things that are benefiting from the program or from EMSC Day. I got to jump off here.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, and thanks for sharing that. And Billy Collier also said that Billy Collier's in Mississippi. They've collected handmade thank you cards from schools, church, youth groups, employee children, things like that to send to the EMS agencies, and boy, those are some good ideas. So. And so, with that, I want to move right along here. This is just a quick follow-up, mainly looking at some new resources. For those of you that were able to make this webinar, this was Keeping Our Children Safe in a Changing World. You'll know, immediately what we're talking about. This was all about, what is there out there? What kind of resources? What kind of assistance, really what's out there that's targeted to help us to teach our children and prepare our children, especially those children that are semi-independent, and they ride maybe the public bus, public transportation to get places, or they go out and walk in the park, and maybe they're either that adolescent age where their decision making might not be where you would like it in a disaster, or perhaps they are children with autism or Down syndrome or any number of other situations that you might think of where it's really difficult to find resources to teach them to stay safe in a chaotic environment. Something like an active shooter incident, or an unplanned disaster when you're separated from your parents and things like that. And so that's what the webinar was all about. If you have not, if you did not get a chance to join that webinar and haven't seen it, it is archived there, and you can find it at that address. You should be able to click on that. If not, I will be happy to send it to you. But you know, it is in the EMSC NRC events. And so I just wanted to look, and I'm hoping that this actually works, because you know, as I'm sharing my screen, what I wanted to do was, you know, actually look at some of these resources and see, you know, what's out there that maybe we didn't know about before, or I didn't know about before, and also you know, get any feedback from any of you that either know about it or are interested in it and would like more information. So the first thing, the National Center for Disaster Preparedness here recently has really done you know, a lot of work, and they have you know, and this isn't specific to children with special health care needs or anything like that, but what it is a new program that they're getting started that has to do with you know, community resilience and community preparedness, which is, you know, a huge part of that. And so hopefully you're able to see now the National Center for Disaster Preparedness website. Can folks see that? Joss, are you able to see that?
Yes, sorry, I had to get off the mute. I can see it.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was working for folks.
It's working.
But anyway, you know, I would encourage you to go here and listen to the little video here that they've got, which talks about what they're doing, and you know, understanding that this is kind of a you know, a new program. They've partnered with Save the Children. You know, they've got some additional funding, and this is really an effort for them, as it says here, to develop a model for child-focused disaster planning for communities. And so, you know, I thought that was a pretty good place to start with some new resources there at the National Center for Disaster Preparedness. So there's that one. Anybody familiar with this program? I know just recently they came out with a really nice article about, you know, the preparedness and the perception of preparedness across the country, and it was very eye-opening. And again, I can send you that information, but you can also find it on this website. Anybody else familiar with this at all? Okay. So I'm going to close this one. Whoops. So this next one, I've looked at it, but I have not, you know, actually downloaded this app. You know, it's not necessarily a new app, but it was new to me, and I didn't know about it until recently. It is a app that, you know, you have to buy, but it's like, what is it here, $1.99, or equivalently in whatever your currency is. But it's called Ask for Autism, and this is really designed to do a couple things. One is to provide a way for your child to communicate with emergency responders or others in the event of you know, some kind of an emergency, and also to, you know, from what I could see, help you with you know, help the child with autism with you know, staying safe in that environment, and you know, along with other daily activities. So, Josh, you looked at this, and I know you said you may not have had the opportunity to really go through it.
Well, I did not have a chance to go through it yet, Tony, but I kind of got that on my, you know, things to do when I can focus on. Maybe actually this weekend I was going to download it and just, you know, go through it like the parent that put that hat back on and go through it and just see. I mean, on first glance, it looks good in the sense that it would provide someone with a lot of information about, you know, whoever, you know, the either patient or participant was, but it would be difficult to, I just don't know until, you know, getting into it, if I can, and how easy it is to navigate, how user-friendly it is, and, you know, how else to look at it. So I'm hoping that maybe by the next time we have this call, I can kind of give everybody a little more detail on it. But I think it's a great concept. I'm not really sure who the developer is. Do you? I wasn't really able to tell. It just had an individual's name, and I don't know if that's a parent. I don't know who it is.
I recall seeing that somewhere, but I can't remember it now. But
right.
Yeah,
okay,
but
well,
yeah. Anybody else on the call maybe has seen this and familiar with it? No? Okay, so something to take a look at. You know, again, I'm certainly not promoting anything. I'm just showing you resources that I've found, and you know, they're hard to come by. And so I'll also know that as I was, you know, doing some research into this, you know, in the last couple of months, that this keeps coming up. I keep seeing this in, you know, a number of places. They say, you know, if you're looking for something, go here. So, you know, word of mouth wise, you know, it sounds like something, you know, worth looking at. So there it is. It's www.ice4autism.com. So pretty simple to remember. All right, and so this next website that I have here, this is from the University of Delaware. It's called alreadyde.org, helpful tools and tips. Hopefully you're able to capture that from here, but you know, you can actually you know, Google University of Delaware apps for disaster, and this will come up. So I'm going to pull this up and just show you how many things that they've got on here. You know, obviously I wasn't able to go through all of these, but you know what I was impressed with, again, the autism 5-point scale for emergencies. I've seen, you know, reference to this in you know, in several different places. I'm not familiar with it, but there is, you know, I believe that it's freely downloadable, and it provides a communication tool for children with autism to help them, you know, communicate with first responders or whoever else may be there. There is this one called Engage. This is a wireless community for the deaf and hard of hearing community. And again, you know, I don't pretend to know anything about it, but again, there's just a whole list of good resources here for you know, a number of different users with different needs. Here's one that's my med list, where you can, you know, actually put all your medicines, you know, on an app and keep up with them, which would really be handy in a disaster situation, but it would be handy on a day-to-day basis as well, which is probably even more important. There's Delaware Tips, which is, again, is just a whole lot of ideas and information. The FEMA website, FEMA, if you didn't know, actually has a number of apps that are intended to help folks with emergency preparedness, you know, of any number of sorts. The SAMHSA also has a number of wonderful resources. If you're not familiar with SAMHSA, that's the oh man, help me out here, Josh. That's the
okay, sorry, I had to unmute again. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association or agency or SAMHSA, yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually in our building now. They're up part of them. Yep, they moved in I don't know, several months ago after they finished another part of our big building. So that agency moved over, yeah.
Right. And
not
so,
that matters, but just thought I'd mention it.
Right. And so, SAMHSA has just gobs of wonderful resources for mental and behavioral health and substance abuse issues for all kinds of things, but again, they really have some good stuff for what to do in a disaster and hotlines and that folks can call and all kinds of stuff. So they've got some wonderful tools, but they have also an app that you can use there. I mean, gosh, they've got everything here. Where do I find fuel when, boy, howdy, wouldn't that have been great when people were trying to get out of Houston for Hurricane Rita. There's a disaster game. This is intended to, help, kids be aware and prepare for disaster. So you can just see here, there's, and I'm not going to go through every one of these, but there's a whole load of resources to take a look at that may or may not help you, depending on what you're looking for in your situation. But anything out there in particular that, again, that anybody has, from what we're looking at here, that anybody has seen and familiar with, or alternatively, any other, interesting resources that, you might know of that you could point folks to?
This is Sally. We had a physician from Kennedy Krieger come and speak with our nurses about communicating with nonverbal patients or patients with special needs disorders, and she gave us several resources. Now, some of them are very basic if the kids can't talk, and usually the emergency room or coming to the hospital is just enough of a situation to create a disaster for some of these kids. It doesn't have to be an actual disaster. But she had several resources for us that I could share with everyone on how to commute. But some of them were as basic as a flip chart with pictures that were fairly standard. And that was more of the reverse of communicating with the kids in a disaster or a stressful situation. But I can share them if you like.
Yeah, that'd be fine. If you wouldn't mind, just send them to me, and I'll make sure that they get out to everybody. And the whole idea of this is to continually to look and see what's out there and to share with folks so that they're aware of what's out there. Any others? Okay. Well, we're let me shut this page down and we'll move on. So we've only got a couple minutes left here. It is coming up on the top of the hour. So, in just the next few minutes, I'd like to hear, from anybody that's got something, or anything at all interesting in their neighborhood that that they're working on that they'd be willing to share. So, what are you doing in your state?
Tony, it's Sandy. Hi.
Hi, Sandy.
Hey, I sent you an email about this. I went back to Alabama and have been training to go out and train EMS providers on the DOSE program, the Direct On Scene Examination, where EMS goes into the home, and if for any reason, and if they notice that there is a child under the age of 1, with the caregiver's permission, they do a safe sleep kind of introduction and find out if the baby is in a safe sleep environment. If there's no bed available, then we are providing beds, the portable ones, to these families that have this. I was invited up to do the training, and we will be taking this show on the road around Alabama to train EMS providers on safe sleep and what to look for in the environment in the home.
Wow, that's fantastic. I know that there's a couple of like community paramedicine programs around the country that are looking at using either the same or similar model. So I'd love to hear more about it. And if you have details or curriculum that you're allowed to share, I'd love to see that as well and get that out to folks. Is this intended to make EMS providers aware, so as they go out on their normal 911 calls, that if they see something, they can say something, so to speak?
Yes.
Or is this intended for a community paramedic program?
If they go out on any call, it doesn't make any difference what kind of call they're going out on. If they happen to notice that there's a potential there for a child under 1, they communicate with whoever the caregiver is, get permission, make sure there is a safe sleep environment, and educate them. It's like a quick education, and they have pamphlets and everything that they can do on safe sleep to make sure that this doesn't end up being a problem, that they end up having to go back out on a SIDS or SUID call. It doesn't matter what the call they're going out on is. Obviously, if it's a true emergency, then they have been known to go back in later and say, could we come back and talk with you about this? It's done in a very non-confrontational, non-judgmental way, and then they provide a safe sleep environment. We get the portable beds for them.
Wow. And do you know if anybody is collecting before and after data, with the training and implementation?
Yes, the program that began this is out of Boynton Beach in Florida. They're the ones that wrote the curriculum. They have a lot of statistics available from when they started until what's going on now, and they do provide that information. And I have it too, and I will get it to you.
Oh, that would be cool. I know lots of people would like to hear that. Okay.
And this is Sally again. Speaking on safe sleep, then Eunice Kennedy Shriver, the national sponsoring organization for the Education for Safe Sleep, has just put out a new program offering nurses an education program where they can get CNEs sponsored by the state of Maryland. But what we're really pushing is all the hospital caregivers and anywhere a child sleeps is to demonstrate safe sleep, because the statistics indicate that if parents are likely to follow the model if they see it demonstrated. So that's from the clinical side. We're trying to demonstrate and educate all the caregivers to provide a safe sleep environment in any care situation.
Wonderful.
But there's a nice educational program. I can send you the link for that as well. It just came out like Wednesday.
Wonderful, wonderful. So these are all great projects, and I know that Dave and anybody else that might be on the call, with the Pediatric Emergency Care Council, I know that one of the things that at the National Association of State EMS Officials, the Pediatric Emergency Care Council is working with the Mobile Integrated Health and Community Paramedicine folks to kind of figure out what how pediatrics can be integrated into some of their programs, and I think this is one of those areas that really makes sense, because there's programs in place, there's training that's been vetted now, and there's data, so I think it's a good place to start. So and not intended to rush, but I did promise you I'd get you out of here on time, and so just final thoughts and announcements. Mark your calendars. The next fan learning session, tentatively, this is set up for July the 29th, 2016. Of course, we don't have login information or anything like that at this time, but that will be coming out. But I did just want to make sure you had that kind of on your radar for the end of July. Any other final thoughts in this last minute before we adjourn?
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good. Thank you, everybody. And I'll be looking forward to the information.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah,